What a great start we're off to.
Thanks. Thanks. All right, so it's we're in like the thick of rehearsals, right? We're like it's busy.
Yeah, you and I both.
Yeah, you're so busy with it. Yeah, I can't believe you've been flying out for rehearsals and flying back every day. That's all you do. You get on the plane.
Thank God Frontier's cheap.
Sleep on the plane. Anyway, so I'm getting ready for rehearsal, and my schedule is like crazy. I'm like basically wake up. You know what time I wake up. I don't need to announce to the world.
8 a.m.
I'm fucking early. And then I get to work. I get my work done. I have a little bit of a break. In that time, I get a little bit of a workout in. I open my script. I make sure I'm getting in the right headspace for rehearsal, and I go to rehearsal. I usually will like have food, like something smaller, like a protein bar, a little salad, something like that, right? But instead, one day I like just didn't have food, and I was like, oh, cool, I'll go get sushi because we have Healthy Living. Do you remember Healthy Living? Did you go there when you were here?
I remember. Yeah, I remember it.
People here call it Wealthy Living because it's the rich people food store, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Wealthy Living. And really, like, I'm sure there's a reason that the prices are, like, marked up a little bit more than they are at, like, Target or Price Chopper or Hannaford. And it's related to warehouse space, not necessarily that the store itself set up and they're like, yes, everything will be more expensive. But anyway, so so I went there, and they actually have really great sushi. They have these people that, like, prep, like, sushi rolls and poke bowls, and they just happen to be better quality. Like, the ingredients are better quality than Price Chopper or Market 32 or Hannaford, right? Like, the ingredients are just better, so it ends up being better. And I was going to get sushi, but then I had, like, I had, like, a shiny thing moment, I was like, ooh, poke bowls, right? So I'm like, oh, poke bowl. I'll get the spicy tuna and salmon poke bowl. I love that. That's great. I'll bring that to rehearsal. And then I get to rehearsal, and I'm opening up my, like, back door to get the poke bowl out and, like, everything that I want for food. And I go, oh, my God, cool. I've got seaweed wraps. Great. Or not wraps, but, like, the little seaweed snacks? Yeah, so I'm like, oh, sweet, seaweed crackers, too. I've got, like, a whole thing going on here. This is great. And then I'm in there, and then I have, like, another, so I've had two shiny thing moments where I'm like, oh, poke bowls, right? When originally I'm thinking sushi. And then, ooh, seaweed snacks. And
you're just going to make your own sushi rolls.
And then I'm sitting at rehearsal, and I'm eating the poke bowl, and I've got the seaweed snacks, and I'm like, what if I put the poke bowl in the seaweed snacks? And I think I've had this brilliant moment, like, for a good couple moments. For a good few minutes, I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, this is revolutionary, putting the poke bowl in this, and then no
one's ever thought of this.
My brain's just like, you're a fucking idiot. You've just done sushi with extra steps. You fucking moron.
I wish you would have told me this in real time, because I would have said that exact thing to you.
That's what. And like I'm sitting there, and one of my like castmates is talking to me, and I have this moment, like my entire posture shifts because I'm sitting there bopping back and forth eating the poke bowl, and then all of a sudden I just shift, and they go, what? And I go, I wanted sushi, but I wanted the poke bowl more, and then I brought the seaweed crackers in here, or the seaweed waifs or whatever, and all I've done is I've made sushi. And, like, it was so defeated. I was just like, I know I'm dumb. Like, this is a dumb thing. Like,
nobody say anything. I get it.
But it's like that. But it also made me realize that you could do that and essentially make, like, the Taco Bell of sushi in the U.S. because people would just they would be like, no, it's way different. It's way different than going out. Like, you don't realize they do different ingredients and they have specials, and, like, they're running a promotion with Doritos.
You put it on the wrap.
Yeah.
You put it on the wrap.
They've got new Doritos umami flavored. Like,
oh my God. It'd be so disgusting. Soy sauce, cheese sauce on your Dorito Loco Taco seaweed wrap, baby. And then they went out of business on the day they opened.
Yeah. All right. You ready to clap?
I'm always
Let's
ready
do it.
to clap.
3, 2, 1. On time.
I'm gonna
every
clap
time.
like I'm slapping you, like I'm Jake Gyllenhaal from the new Roadhouse movie.
Do it. Did you watch it?
I watched it last night.
You did? Cool. Let's get right. Welcome back to the Unpop Podcast. We both watched Roadhouse this week, which was amazing.
Oh my god.
Which was amazing. I'm Kevin Miner, the Capitan. Todo siempre. He, him. With me as always is
Odie Matthews, the chef cooking up the content.
Odie
slapping
5 O's.
Odie Matthews, thank you very much.
Yes, cooking up content.
Yes.
The chef, he's here as always. It's not. It could still be a gumbo. We're in the Florida Keys this week, baby. Let's save Roadhouse for the end. That can be both of our jams. Like if you have another jam that you brought, cool. But let's talk Roadhouse at the end because you wanted to talk about.
Okay, so I'm thinking now since we both watched Roadhouse
That we talk about.
I'm going to shorten my list of our normal topic.
Okay.
Because I kind of want to do half talking about these movies, but I really want to talk about Roadhouse.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. But let's not short ourselves too much. I mean, movies that are so bad they're good. I think a lot of them you can just say this movie was so bad it's good. Like we don't have to
we don't have to talk in
dissect
depth about all of
every
them.
single one. Yeah, I think a good idea is to get into the concept. Here, dear listener, listen. Like have you ever been sitting down and you turn on something on? I mean, nowadays it would be Netflix or Hulu or Prime or Max or Paramount or Peacock or
Stars
or
AMC
or
Jesus,
we just
there's
keep
so
going
many
with
more.
the streaming service or
Crunchyroll.
Yeah,
Funimation.
we at the same time. Back in the day, though, you would have been renting from Redbox, and if we go further back in time, perhaps a Blockbuster or Hollywood Video, or further back in time, your local VHS castle or whatever the fuck it was.
VHS castle.
But you
Back
sit
in the olden
down
times.
and you have, like, maybe you have no impression of the movie. Maybe you have some expectations, but you end up watching it and you think to yourself at some point, this is bad, but you're still enjoying it. And so then you realize further down the line of watching this movie, you know, let's say end of the second act, beginning of the third, you're like, but I'm really enjoying this. This is so bad, it's good. That's our topic this week. Things that are so bad, they're good, specifically in the entertainment realm. Take it away, Chef Odie.
I also want to say that some of these are more guilty pleasures.
Of
so
yours.
Take that information what you will.
Well,
Just in general, I think
it's subjective.
I think that some of these people could make a case that they're good. But again, like you just said, it's kind of subjective. So that's why I think that some of these might be more of like a guilty pleasure, or maybe they're just bad all the way through, but you still somewhat enjoy them.
What's interesting about this is this doesn't exist anywhere else. Like there's no going back to where we started this podcast.
So bad it's good.
There's
song.
no so bad they're good Doritos. Like there's no so bad they're good like flavors in the food world. If something's bad, it's bad. Right?
It's bad,
only in the realm of like longer form entertainment. Let's say, you know, like even short films are longer form entertainment because you have a 10-minute commitment at least, 10 to 15 minutes. But like in that realm, there's stuff that's so bad it's good, right? This is clearly an entertainment, and I would even say like this happens in music too, but specifically entertainment. Like sometimes things are so bad they're good. Do you mind if I kick it off with my favorite reference? Because we've already talked about it before, and like we don't even have to talk about it a lot. I love Southland Tales. I love sharing Southland Tales with people. It is a movie that is only bad. It is a bad movie. It is objectively a bad movie. Subjectively, though,
bad.
and especially if you're watching it with me, it's a good time. Because that movie is ridiculous, and I will be cackling like a hyena. And even if you don't like the movie, you will laugh at how many times I am like brought to tears by my own laughter during a viewing of that film.
What a movie though. Like just a movie that I watched over, I don't know how long ago I watched
Less than a year ago, 6 months.
I feel like I watched that movie 10 years ago, but I still remember it like I watched it an hour
Exactly.
ago. Like
Like and quick summary because we've already talked about it, but like it has an amazing ensemble cast. It was Richard Kelly's second film. He did Donnie Darko. He brought in The Rock, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Justin Timberlake, Sean William Scott, John Lovitz, Sherry O'Terry, like just an insane cat. Mandy Moore. Like the cast is through the fucking roof, and then like it just proceeds to be a wild fever dream of post World War III America that somehow still has something to do with time travel. Thanks for, I guess, roping that back in, Richard Kelly. Yeah. But all of that is happening at a very fast pace. And it's just ridiculous, the whole thing. And like that's what
should have been an anime.
In my mind, it should have. First off, I think if it was, it would be beloved. Like, I honestly think if it was an anime, there would be, like, a subculture of anime people that are like, it's the best anime ever, you don't even understand.
I could totally see that.
It's
like a 10-episode anime?
Yeah, they're, like I feel like people who liked... I also feel like different decisions would have been made with it, but, like, I feel like people who love Fooly Cooly would love this, right? Have you ever seen Fooly Cooly?
I'm not.
Fooly Cooly is one of those shows that I think objectively is good, so it doesn't fall into our category, but subjectively, some people just can't handle it. Like, it's over the top. It has a lot of the ridiculousness that not Akame ga Kill, but what's the other one with the scissors? Akame.
Us by Jordan
Peele. No, the anime with the scissor girl. I can't remember it right now.
Anyway, I don't remember
let's you take it away. I just wanted to mention Southland Tales because it is so bad it's so good, and it's my favorite so bad it's good.
And honestly, like, I would watch it again for fun.
It's like The Room. Like, you watch The Room and you're like, I can't believe this ever
That's
got
the first
made.
one on my list.
Oh, good. Okay, cool. Good transition.
So
let's get into The
Room. The
Tommy
Room. Okay,
Wiseau.
so and listen,
I'm listening.
What's the other guy's name? It's Greg.
Don't care.
Okay.
The only one
Greg,
we need to remember is the weird guy.
Tommy Wiseau.
Wiseau.
Do you know he apparently made his living selling jeans? That's how he afforded to fund The Room.
Good
That's
for
not
him.
true. Obviously he probably like sold drugs or something illegal, but like
jeans,
you know.
Well, I mean, that was the hot early 90s term for cocaine. Hey, man, I got some good jeans. They got a solid cut to them.
Right.
You want to see the hemline on these? Like, that was you're going to have to show me the hemline on those jeans before we make any deals here. That's how they did it back in the day. You didn't know this. Are they bell bottoms or are they straight leg? Like, that's
either way. He definitely didn't make a living selling jeans to fund a like $5 million movie. There's no way.
No, I think he conned some people into funding it. That's how you do it.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, you're a grifter.
He conned a lot of
people. You con people.
But
like people nowadays who are selling online coaching and master classes, they're just grifting that money so they can eventually fund a horrible film or project.
Yeah. And that's great. I can't wait to watch him.
Me too.
But no,
Thanks,
the
Ben
Room
Shapiro.
is the Room.
Keep going.
Oh, God,
go. The Room. Don't let me derail you again.
Yeah, too late. The Room is literally such a anomaly in the film industry because not only was it made with like low production by somebody and people realistically who had no idea what they're doing, but not only is it a fever dream, but it's also a passion project, which means that it's a passion project fever dream, which is even more insane when you think about just how, like, from the start to finish with The Room, none of it makes sense. None of the scenes lead into each other. The acting is flat. The dialogue feels like it was written by AI before AI was even a thing. But yet, somehow, it's one of the most enjoyable movies, you know?
Yeah. Maybe Tommy Wiseau is AI.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. But it's The Room is just, I don't know, like,
I'm here to learn
iconic
your ways. That's my best Tommy Wiseau right there. It's just he's got that real
like,
drawl to his voice. Like everything sounds like he's sinking into a sofa sideways, you know?
Because you're not allowed to know where he's from because he's never said. Nobody knows where he's from.
There's so many weird things surrounding this, but the main plot is like there's like a romantic triangle going on, right?
The main plot is it's a movie.
And they're throwing footballs and there's a roof and he says, "I did not hit her. I did not."
I did not.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark. There's so many moments that are quotable. So let's.
Oh, I know what it's about. I know what it's
Yeah.
about. I just remembered. It is a love triangle. It's Tommy is dating a girl, and then his best friend and her start to get romantically involved.
Yes.
And there's also a little kid that's a full-grown adult
Yes.
that runs around and says stuff.
Yes.
That's the plot.
And then so let's qualify this. So this movie is objectively bad, but somehow through the magic of it being bad, but it's like watching I think the best way to describe movies that are so bad they're good, it's like watching a car crash, right? But it's like watching a car crash where like at the end of it, like the driver's fine. Like basically at the end of it, you have to feel fine and the driver has to be fine in order for these movies, like at least in the viewing sense. Like don't dig too much into movies that are so bad they're good. You might ruin them for yourself. But like if you're watching a movie, it's so bad, but you're kind of like, it's like watching a car crash and you're entertained during it. You're like, wow, I can't believe the metal bent that way. That's a good quality of these. I think movies that are so bad they're good are quotable. Like there's moments in them that bring you joy through how hilariously bad the lines are. I think
it's usually the dialogue plays a big factor in that like threshold.
The writing, I would say first and foremost, if a movie's so bad it's so good, it's because of the writing. Secondly, it's in some of the directorial choices that were made. Thirdly, sometimes it's more about the actors. Like the actors are they're too elevated, or like they're
not elevated enough.
and like, or they're counterbalancing each other in a weird way, or they just noticeably have no chemistry. Like a lot of these things end up playing a role. A lot of these concepts end up playing a role in movies that are so bad they're good.
And they play a big role in the next two movies on my list.
Hit me with it. Are they related? Are they sequels?
Yes. I have two sets of sequels on this list, and this is the first one. 3 sets of sequels on this list. This movie plays really well into the everybody is taking the movie seriously.
Yes.
But the movie doesn't have a very serious plot, and those are sometimes my favorites when it's all like a bunch of straight-laced people.
Can I guess what it is?
And go for it.
The Attack of the Killer Tomatoes franchise.
The Meg and the Meg 2.
Wait, hold on here. Hold on. Are we saying that Jason Statham is in a bad movie?
I mean,
hold on.
Yeah, he's in other bad movies too.
Yes,
like Crank and Crank 2. Those are just
But are
bad,
we saying that Jason? Those are also so bad they're good. So now we have 4 movies that are so bad they're good with Jason Statham. I'm working my way here. This is the season here.
He's got more than that.
4. There's Crank 2, the Meg 2.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking he's also got a movie called Parker, which is not. It's just bad.
Yep.
Like it's very just like middle of the road bad.
5.
Like, Jason Statham doesn't have a perfect.
You are giving me
but
the evidence here.
He's a perfect man.
Odie.
He's a perfect man though.
He's what?
He's a perfect man. He just doesn't do perfect movies.
We'll keep working.
So, anyways, the Meg.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So
I'm filing
this
these
is a
away.
plug. Obviously, the Meg is fresh in my brain because my new YouTube channel, Magnum Nopus. Go give it a subscribe.
This episode sponsored by Magnum Nopus on YouTube.
Magnum Nopus.
Do you like not liking things?
I do sometimes.
Do you find joy in recognizing how bad these things? This is why we're doing this episode. Is because you're
it's
good
kind
at
of a plug for my channel.
You're making an art out of enjoying how bad things can be. Which we really should, because there's still a lot of effort on the production side of these things, and there still are. It's not like everything about these movies is bad. You know, like when I watch The Meg, like if I'm in the right mood, you catch me in the right mood or the right state of mind, maybe I'm a little high, right? I'm probably gonna love it, right? Get me high, make me some Eggos. We'll watch The Meg. It's cool. Like, I don't know why I picked Eggos, but
I don't know.
But that does sound delicious. You know what I'm talking about? Eggos. You get like a little peanut butter. You get a little like maple syrup on top of it. You put some granola. You get whipped cream, right? So
you just doctor them up.
You do everything. Here's how you do it. First off, before we get into The Meg, here's how you do the perfect Eggos when you're high. Anybody listening, whoever wants to do this, I used to do this. Here's a fun. This ties into this. So, in like 2010, I was working my first like out of college job. I was working in landscaping. I hated it. like it was, well, I actually kind of loved and hated it. It was hot days, but a lot of really great work, and you could see what you got done. And like sometimes the pay was good, sometimes it wasn't. But my friend Chad and I were working in landscaping together, and every Friday we would, to cope with our existence, we would get high and go buy a $5 movie at Walmart. Because this was back when they still had the $5 movie rack, right?
I remember those.
And so many of those movies are movies that fall into this category where they're so bad they're good.
Bin.
Because that's what we did. And then I would always buy Eggo waffles, and I would heat them up. But you had to do them in the toaster. You had to toast them to like that golden brown, right? And then here's how you do it. The perfect Eggo waffles. You go butter, right? But you have to make sure you get every nook and cranny with the butter. Then you go peanut butter. Then you put granola on top of that, right? Then you do, then what you do is you start stacking them. So every single waffle, doesn't matter how many you're doing. You're doing 2, same thing for every single stack, right? And so you just keep layering it. And so every single waffle has butter, peanut butter, granola, and then you get a syrup on every single layer so that it's in between all of them, and a little bit of cinnamon and bananas and whipped cream, and it is like, I mean, it's probably, let's be real, I was probably consuming like 3,000 calories every Friday night.
The only thing I would add,
yes,
a little bit of chocolate chip sprinkles on top. That would be like that, bananas, whipped cream, chocolate chip. That
is
whole
solid.
combo with the granola and peanut. Oh,
it's
man.
perfect.
All right,
I'm telling you.
Thanks for listening to the Unpop Podcast.
Let's go do it now. Let's go watch a bad movie.
Yeah,
I'm out of here.
I gotta go
Let's go get a little high and watch a bad movie. All right, but yeah, okay. So the Meg and the Meg 2.
Right, you mentioned there's like an art to look. Real quick, I want to say this, like, with my new channel, Magnum Nopus, if you're interested in movies that you've seen posters for or you've seen trailers for and you're like, wow, I wonder what that movie is like, that's what this channel is for. It is either going to be a movie it falls into 2 categories. Every movie it's ranked off of 2 things. Is it a so bad it's good movie, or is it a just plain garbage movie?
Yeah.
And we're taking a look at movies from all different kinds of backgrounds. I just did the movie The Meg. Coming up, I'm going to say this here, little spoiler, little insight of some of the movies that are going to be talked about in the coming weeks. Yeah. There's a movie called Monster Hunter with Mila Jovovich from the guy who directed Resident Evil. I'm
so glad you have this channel because I forgot that some of these movies existed.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also a movie called The Great Wall, which is a Chinese cash grab starring Matt Damon and Pedro Pascal.
What?
There's all
no.
Yeah.
It's called
It's called The Great Wall, and it's about dinosaurs attacking the Great Wall of China. It's literally White Man Saves China. It's
White Man
those are the
Saves
next 2
China?
coming up. It's the next 2 coming up right there. Those 2.
Oh man.
So be ready.
Wow. Dude, I'm so glad you have this. I think an unintentional function of this Magnum Nopus channel is going to be reminding us of movies that existed that we didn't see. Like I didn't see. I remember seeing the trailers for both of those movies and just going, nah. Nah.
Yep. And the other criteria with this channel is it has to be movies. For the most part, I did The Meg because I just truly, that is my guilty pleasure movie. Yeah. Like, I love watching that movie. It's on in the background a lot. I've seen that movie over 10 times.
You put it on in the background a lot?
Yeah. It's just a movie I enjoy.
Throw it on in the background. Just Jason Statham and Rainn Wilson yelling at each other in the background while you're doing stuff. I just imagine you, like, cooking dinner. You're like, what do you want for dinner, Nate? Like, just Jason Statham and Rainn Wilson. I can't believe that
It's a megalodon. Yeah. It's a megalodon. But, so this channel is to kind of do that. Like, if there's movies that you've been curious about, but you don't want to sit down and watch for 2 hours, come watch my 8 to 9 minute video.
Here's my endorsement for your channel, and then we can move on to the Meg. I have watched all of your videos all the way through on this channel, and that is rare for me because even some of the channels that I love and adore on YouTube, I'll get to like 3/4 of the way, and I know that there's like 2 more ad breaks coming, and that like I've gotten everything that I'm really going to get out of this video, so I don't even wait for the end. I'm just like, all right, next video. Like,
and I don't have ads yet, so get in while you can.
You should have ads for
I'm not monetized
and
yet,
Eggos.
But one, but yeah. So the Meg and the Meg 2 are to me, these are the golden staple of so bad they're good, and here's why. One, the cast in both of these movies is great. Jason Statham, obviously great action star, and then there are tons of other people in here. I'm not going to get into it. But on top of that, it's got a high production, like there's a high production value here. It's got a budget behind it. You know, the Meg looks good. The special
What was the
effects
budget
look
on
good. It's a good question. The only budget that sticks in my mind right now is Monster Hunter because I don't understand how that movie was only made for that much money and looks that bad.
You should mention
crazy.
The budget in your videos for sure. Like this was
I
made
do
with
in
a
Monster
budget.
Hunter.
Okay, good. You should definitely do it for all of them and be like
oh, I do it in the Great Wall too.
Oh, good. Yeah. You should. You didn't do it for the Jason Statham movies?
Well, no,
you keep going. I'm gonna look up the budget.
$130 million budget for the Meg, but the difference between the Meg and the other two movies where I mentioned the budget is the Meg actually made money, the other two lost money. So there is that element too. But anyways, the Meg, if you like movies that are very, and I'm going to use these terms very lightly, but like let's say like horror or suspenseful light, and I mean like the lightest version possible because it is a shark movie.
Yes.
If you are somebody like me who either has thalassophobia or you're just not a big fan of the water, but movies that take place in the water, you watch them and you're like, I would never be in this situation. Because every time I watch The Meg and The Meg 2 and they're on a boat and they're getting attacked by the Meg, I'm like, well, I would never be in this situation because I would never be on a boat in the middle of the ocean in the first place.
Yes.
I wouldn't work at a research facility that's above the Marinara Trench in the ocean. Like I wouldn't be there. So it's fun to put yourself in those kinds of movies, but
yeah.
Really, all the Meg is in the Meg 2 is just giant shark, Jason Statham. That's it. It's literally, and I said this in my Meg video, and I'll say this again. The Meg and the Meg 2 are Jaws, but for dummies.
Okay, hold up. Here's a crazy thing. The Meg was done on a budget of $130 million, right?
And it made about $550.
And then the Meg 2 was done on almost the same budget, like 130 to 140, and it made almost 400. So like these aren't flops.
No,
not at all.
They're good movies. Well,
and I don't think everybody thinks of these movies as movies that are so bad that they're good, right? Which goes back to where we started. Like this is a subjective thing, right? But I love that you're you're pinpointing these movies and like what's bad about them, but then highlighting why they're still good because obviously like not all of these movies are bombs. You know?
No. Some of them will be, but the two Meg movies.
Was the Great Wall
for those
a bomb?
of you who don't know,
did a bomb?
Yeah. It was actually. So here's a little.
White man saves China bomb.
So here's the thing. That was actually the most expensive movie made in China at the time in 2016.
And then they stopped bringing white people to make them. They're like, Matt Damon can't even save this movie.
There's a reason. But yeah, the Meg and the Meg 2 are, to me, if you want, especially the sequel, and you don't need to watch the first one to watch the sequel, and I'll probably make a video about the sequel down the road, but if you really want the most like ludicrous, mindless action, bad dialogue, fun action scene type of movies, I mean, this movie ends with a little spoiler, Meg 2. The final fight is Jason Statham with explosive harpoons on a jet ski fighting 3 megalodons. Yeah. Like, what more could you want at that point?
This
like,
just
really?
brings to mind that someone decided, someone heard the phrase, jump the shark. And they were like, we're going to do that, but with a budget. Like, we're to jump the shark. Do you know where jump the shark comes from, right?
Yes, but that is a great comparison. But that's
what it is, man.
Okay,
right,
so let's move on to the couple other sets.
Next one.
I'm going to speed run some of these. The other set of sequels on this movie that I'm going to be making a video on here, probably next after the two I mentioned, Ghost Rider and Ghost Rider 2. These are
who starred in those?
Nicolas Cage.
Oh yeah, he's in a lot of movies that are so bad they're good. You're
he
picking.
Really
Here's an interesting thing. The big budget ones that you're picking out have actors that are notoriously in movies that are so bad they're good. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, I mean the Ghost Rider. I use a lot of clips from Ghost Rider 1 and 2 because Ghost Rider 1 came out. I think it was like 2006, 2007. Yeah. So I was prime teenage age for like a dumb comic book man's head on fire, skull spitting bullets at people kind of movie. And what really sells Ghost Rider 1 and Ghost Rider 2 as being so bad they're good, for one, the effects and stuff don't really hold up.
Yeah.
But two, it's Nicolas Cage overacting to the point where it's just so fun to watch. Like, he was into that role every step. Oh my God, dude. If you've never seen the first Ghost Rider, I encourage you, sober or not, but better if you're not.
Yes. All these movies
sit down and watch
we
that
highly
movie.
recommend if you are interested, partaking in some sort of non-sober experience.
Yes.
And
Not
I
we
say that
endorse
as a sober
but-
person.
Yeah, right? But honestly, the vibe that Ghost
Cali
Rider 1 and
sober.
Ghost Rider 2 give me are the same as the other set of sequels that I wanted to mention, which are the Joel Schumacher Batman and Robin movies from the 90s, where it went from Tim Burton's dark gothic universe to more of this like colorfully fun, like we're gonna sell toys and merchandise universe. And I understand why people are like, hey, the Val Kilmer and the George Clooney Batmans, you know, you've a grown-ass man, Chris O'Donnell, playing Robin, who's supposed to be like 14, but he's like 38 in real life when he played him or whatever. You've got Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. You've got all these like
cool out.
chill. Or like when
chill
George
out or
Clooney pulls
cool?
out the Batman
Did you say
credit
chill or
card.
cool
He
out?
says all of it.
Okay.
He says both. 2 separate times.
All right, cool.
He literally says everybody freeze, and then he shoots him with the freeze gun, and then when Batman's fighting him, he says chill out.
Wow.
I love it.
I think for these movies that you're mentioning, I think specifically we were transitioning away from the earlier 90s mentality of everything is just the excuse to sell more toys, right? Because, like, look at what we had growing up. Like, it was like G.I. Joe, mainly a toy franchise. Like, there was a show, but Transformers, mainly a toy franchise, right? Every single cartoon that we grew up with was mainly a toy franchise, like Batman, right? Even Batman, which was like a great cartoon, like compared to the rest, but like that, you know, what's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles toy franchise? But mainly a toy franchise, but also a show. So like. And I think we were kind of starting to move away from that. So these movies like attempt to have good, interesting plots, and that's what ends up making them bad. Is the writing just doesn't land the mark. Like they're like, here's all of these interesting things for these characters, but also it's a fucking cartoon, and we're just trying to sell you the toys.
I totally agree. And I mean, real quick, my fun story about the Batman movies.
Yeah.
So everybody knows from Batman 89 to Batman and Robin, there's 4 Batman movies, 2 by Tim Burton, 2 by Joel Schumacher.
Yep. So we got Michael Keaton, and then we've got Val Kilmer, and then George Clooney.
Yeah. And what ended up happening, if everybody's ever wondered or didn't know why there was such a drastic change from Batman Returns, which is the last Michael Keaton, Michelle Pfeiffer, Tim Burton movie, to the Joel Schumacher universe, the primary driving force of why those movies drastically changed is when Batman Returns came out, they pushed all the merchandise because the Batman 89 had such a successful run with kids buying Batman toys. But since Batman Returns was way darker with Danny DeVito literally like vomiting up bile, and, you know, the Penguin was really the main character in that movie, and it's very gross and not a kid-friendly movie at all. When the movie came out, after all these kids had bought all these merchandise and partnered with like McDonald's for Happy Meal toys and stuff, the parents were like, what the fuck? This movie is not kid friendly, but you sold it as a kid's movie. And then
especially
Warner Brothers
Christopher Walken like kills Selena Kyle like real quick, like an actual like death scene. Like she's dead in a dumpster in that movie.
Yeah, she's gone. She checked out.
And I don't think that's Tim Burton's fault. I think that's the studio's fault. That's Warner Brothers' fault for being like, Tim Burton, do all the crazy stuff that you want to do. Hey, guy who made a movie about people who die and come back from the dead, do everything you want to do in this movie, and then we're still going to do everything that we do to push toys.
And it's great. Yeah. Moving on from some of the more comic book movies, because, you know, I wanted to hit those as always. Have you ever heard of the movie Moonfall?
Yes.
Have you seen the movie Moonfall?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay, good, 'cause that's the movie that I'm going to recommend we watch
I saw a trailer, and I saw the title was Moonfall, and I was like, this is the dumbest shit I've ever seen.
That movie is on my list to make a video about.
I can't believe this got greenlit.
That is the like pinnacle. I'm gonna honestly, all of these are gonna fall into the same category. They're all disaster films. I'm just gonna rattle some of them, like so bad they're good disaster movies.
Okay, hit me with them.
Moonfall, which for anybody that doesn't know what this movie is about,
the moon
is crashing into the earth. Yeah, the moon's crashing into the earth.
They tell you.
Geostorm, which is
hold on. Here's what I'll give them.
Yeah.
With these disaster films, the thing that they say in the title actually comes true. Actually happens, which to me is important. like
So the three that I'm about to name, literally you're spot on.
Okay, hit me.
Because
Moonfall, Geostorm.
Moonfall, the moon falls. Yep. Geostorm, there is a geostorm. A
giant geostorm.
It's all created by man. Very fun movie. And then the third one is the movie Greenland, and they are trying to get to Greenland because that's where the bunker is before the meteor hits Earth.
Oh, there's a bunker. Wait,
yeah.
A bunker's going to prevent them from dying when a meteor hits Earth?
It's a nuclear bunker place for people to go, and then a meteor hits the Earth and they're alive. There's the movie. They don't have to see it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That also makes me think of what's the Day After Tomorrow. That was another one. I think a lot of people like that movie though.
Yeah, that's probably why I wouldn't put it in this category. But these three are disaster movies.
Yes.
And the last one that I would put in that category to round out the So Bad They're Good for disaster quadrology. Yeah. The movie 2012 that came out in 2009.
Yeah. Okay. I think most disaster movies actually fall into this category, but they fall into this category somewhere. Like, even if it's a good disaster film, it does well in the box office, it's a hit, people like the film, and like there's good buzz around it. I think somewhere around like the third or fourth viewing, these inevitably become movies that are so bad they're good, right? Because the lines are cheesy, like and really, like, look at what they get praised for. They get praised for good special effects for the disaster, right? Nobody's going out and being like, oh my God, it was so well written. That was such a great piece of cinema. You know, like, no, they're like, no, this was an amazing theme park ride and I enjoyed it. And yeah, some of the lines are cheesy and they're trying to string along some plot about, like, I don't know, family dynamics or like relationship dynamic. There's always the human element of like some form of relationship dynamics that need to be worked on or mended or like whatever that are happening at the same time as the disaster, right? But the movies themselves are, like, I would say eventually you watch them enough that you're like, yeah, this is even Armageddon, right? The most famous disaster movie of our time.
Yes.
Right? Like, even if people haven't seen it, like if you talk to anybody over the age of, I don't know, 28 or 30, right? That people are like, oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, Aerosmith. They sang that song for it.
It's funny you mentioned like the whole, like, there's a problem at home, because literally, like, the main character in Moonfall, his whole dilemma is that he has a daughter and he's divorced, so he's a divorced dad.
Yeah.
Like, that's his whole thing.
I think the only person who did a disaster film that was actually good and holds up as a disaster film, it's not even a full-on disaster film, but remember Adam McKay did Don't Look Up?
Okay, so I'm so glad you bring that up, because when I had a surgery when that movie was coming out, and I was laid up in bed for like 3 or 4 days. And so I watched every single disaster movie that I could find where a meteor or comet is going to hit the Earth, and then I was going to end it watching Don't Look Up. And that movie still makes me feel a certain way of, like, this probably is what would happen.
Yeah, because it's, like, actually
I
a good
kind of
movie.
believe it.
Yeah.
Because it is. It's a great movie. And the ending, when the ending happens, and spoiler alert, if you want to put a spoiler right here, or just spoiler.
Wait, disaster spoiler. Yeah.
Yeah, right here. That movie ends with all of the main characters failing, and they're around a table eating dinner, waiting for the impact, and it just does something. It hit me in a way that, like, it just made me feel doomed.
Well, and so what's interesting is, although a lot of disaster movies would fall into the so bad they're good category, like I'm saying, eventually, right? Eventually, like, you get used to the cheesy lines and, like, yeah, we're sending a bunch of guys who are, like, mining riggers up to drill a hole into an asteroid, you know? Like,
it's easier to teach them to be spacemen than to teach spacemen to be miners.
I mean, eventually you reason yourself into movies being so bad that they're good, especially, like, I think the more ridiculous the premise, the more we can get there. You know, the more quickly we can get there, right? What?
My next movie is the most ridiculous one probably on this list. And I'm going to make a video about this one too. A lot of these I'm going to make videos on, which is kind of why this list was so easy to put together for me, because these are all movies I want to talk about. Have you heard of the movie Hurricane Heist?
No.
Oh my God. So this movie has a very special place in our house because before Nate and I were even dating for like 6 months, we went to go see this movie in theaters.
Yeah.
Came out in like 2016, the year we started dating.
Yep.
And so this movie is about, and I think it takes place in like Alabama or Georgia. It's somewhere on like the southern, where hurricanes happen on the southern hemisphere of America.
Yeah.
I just butchered that. But either way, and the movie is basically about, there is this astronomically large, like the most intense Category 5 hurricane the world has ever seen is about to hit this town.
Okay.
And so while that's happening, people are pulling off a heist. And it is just...
They're like,
it's just magical.
It's one
just
last
magical.
job, and we got to do it during this hurricane. It doesn't matter. Are we going to commit to our bit?
The scene that sticks out to this movie is towards the end, and I would say spoiler for this one, but like, who gives a shit? Yeah. If you haven't seen this movie, you probably didn't know it existed. But the ending is a bunch of semis trying to escape the hurricane because they're in the eye of the storm and they're trying to keep up with the eye as the hurricane's coming and everything. Yeah. And they pulled off the heist, and there's just a scene where the main character is like hanging off the side of a semi. Mm-hmm. And the hurricane's like coming up on the edge of the semi truck, like about to hit the trailer, and he jumps. And he lands on a car, and right as he jumps, the entire semi-truck just whoosh, just gets flipped up into the air and goes right into the storm. But he was able to jump while two cars are moving at like 100 miles an hour. He was able to jump from one to the other as the other gets pulled up into the hurricane, and it's great.
That makes me think of the scene from Skyscraper where The Rock takes his leg off and jumps, right?
Yes.
That is like,
that's just
I think a lot of action movies end up being so bad they're good.
Yes,
but
if
like,
you can't
there's
tell,
an audience for them, and here's the thing: they succeed in the box office. Like a lot of these do succeed in a lot. Oftentimes,
let's see if
they succeed.
Heist did well.
And really, like when you go back to it, I would say even Wanted, right? Remember that movie Wanted? Do you remember?
I do remember James McAvoy.
James McAvoy, Angelina Jolie, they're bending bullets. Like when that came out, that was people were like, "Oh, it's so fucking nuts! I love that movie."
Yeah.
But if you go back and you watch it now, you're like, "Yeah, this movie's kind of dumb." But like,
it's really bad.
But there's a whole world for that. Like I think it's the same thing as like when people watch pro wrestling, right? Because like pro wrestling, there's still amazing athletics going on, right? But like the plot line that they've interwoven where it's like, I was going to be this guy's security guy, but I've double crossed him and I'm going to pin him now in the ring. Like,
yeah.
and somehow that's the most important thing in the world to these people. Like
suspension
so
of disbelief.
bad. Yeah. Well, it's so bad. It's good, but you're there to like get into that. Like, and if you're a conscious moviegoer and you enjoy these things, like if you enjoy cheesy action films, if you love Crank 2, if you just want,
you're gonna love
like
it.
Even John Wick films, I think over a long enough timeline, we'll be looking back on them and go, yeah, they're so bad, they're good. It all started because his dog died, and then we just escalate.
The first one I think will always hold up.
I think
the first one will always.
The first one always holds up, except for the very end of the movie. I just lost it because there's that final scene. He's just laid waste to this guy's entire like mafioso fucking crime family, right? And the guy's about to get on the helicopter, and then the bad guy goes, "Yeah, you know what? I think I could take him." Like, and he just gets off the helicopter.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah,
and I was like, all right, so maybe not the whole movie, but that ending is so bad it's good because like he's about to get away, and I was like, oh cool, they're setting up for a second one, and then the guy gets off the helicopter.
Yep.
And I was like, why? Why would you do that, bro? Like, you did.
I agree.
Yeah, you just spent the whole movie running away from this guy, and then you're 2 steps away from actually getting away, and you turn around. Anyway, I've got a good one. I've got a good one for you.
Oh, yeah.
Because you reminded me of this film, and I love this movie, and it is so bad it's good, but the action scenes are fucking amazing. This movie centers around amazing fight scenes and amazing set pieces.
Ooh,
like
who's in this? I might know.
Donnie Yen and hold on, Donnie Yen and Nicholas Tse. Both of them amazing like stars, right? And this was also made in China in 2006. It is an action thriller. It's a real fast-paced hour and 30 minutes. And it's called
District 13, is it?
No, it's called Dragon Tiger Gate.
Oh my God.
Have you
I
seen
love
this
that
movie?
name. No, but I
You
love
need
that
to
name.
watch this movie because
Dragon what?
Dragon Tiger Gate. It's like the most
What a name,
Chinese title you could ever come up with.
I'm looking at it.
It is amazing.
Holy moly, the poster looks like it was made in Photoshop
It
in
is so bad
1997.
it's good. You have to watch it.
Wow. I love Donnie Yen.
Let me give you the plot real quick. The
Whoa.
plot of Dragon Tiger Gate. Dragon Tiger Gate is an academy established by two powerful martial artists. It aims to train students in martial arts in order to uphold justice and combat the threat of the Triad. It is also a haven for children who have been orphaned by the Triad. While there's like a cult thing, the story begins when the two sons of Fu Hu Wang, one of the founders of the academy, who were each born to two different mothers. The older is named Dragon and the younger is named Tiger. When the boys were young, Dragon's mother left the academy and gave Dragon half of a jade amulet pendant and told him that his half-brother, Tiger, has the other half. When Dragon's mother was killed in a fire, Dragon was taken under the care of the Triad boss. So you can see where we're going. And
I think I have cancer
Then
now.
they reunite later and they fight. They fight for the whole movie. That's all it's about, is these two brothers coming back together later. One's been raised by the bad guys, one's been raised by the good guys, and they just fight. And the fights are amazing. And you have to watch it. It's like, it's so bad it's good. Like
Wow, that
yeah.
that is a plot.
It is. It's. I cannot praise this movie. Like, I've probably watched. I've watched it more than once, and it's held up because I don't go. Once again, I'm not going. You don't go into these movies thinking, "Wow, this is going to be a cinematic masterpiece." You go in and you're
I
like,
do.
"This is going to be fun." Right? Like,
See,
you don't get on a roller coaster because it's going to change your world perspective. You get on a roller coaster because it's going to be fun for the next 2.5 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, I try to go into a lot of these that I'm making videos on with the mindset of, I'm going to enjoy this.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
And then at the end of it, if I didn't, at least I went in with the mindset hoping I would enjoy it. Because I'll be honest, there's some Bloodshot. I didn't enjoy that movie. Morbius. I didn't enjoy that movie.
Oh yeah. But you
Monster
enjoyed
Hunter?
making the content around them.
It did.
Yeah.
Monster Hunter. I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about, but I don't. Anyways,
It's like someone gave you a
heard-
bad ingredient and you have to throw it into your little chef, your content chef gumbo, and you're like, I don't like this ingredient, but I'll do what I have to.
You know what? That reminds me of the movie.
We got some spices we
Have
can
you-
mix in with this to bury the flavor.
So this is probably the. I'm gonna speed run it. I just want to name off a couple, and then I want to end with one that I actually kind of want to talk about for a second,
me.
and then we can talk about Roadhouse. How's that?
Okay.
So just some ones that I found from the internet. The Twilight series apparently is so bad it's good. I can attest that I've watched all of those movies drunk with Nate, and they are very enjoyable when you're drunk.
Yeah.
I will say that.
You know what? I
Um,
will give you that they're so bad they're good.
There's something to 'em.
Quotable moments. The writing's not really that great. Doesn't always make sense.
Acting is weird.
Yeah, the acting's kind of
Yeah.
weird at points, but there's people who elevate the acting, at different
Mhm.
moments, which gives you the contrast that you need to assess that it's so bad that it's good. Ultimately, if you're not Team Jacob, you're wrong all the way up till the third movie. Like,
Oops, I hit. I muted my
I was
mic
just
by
staring at
accident.
you. I was like, this podcast
Just
is about to
staring.
fail. Could you
No,
see my
I,
face?
yeah,
My
I
eyes
did.
just
I was like,
lit
oh,
up.
no.
I was like, oh no.
I like Robert Pattinson as an actor a lot, so I mean, if anything, I'm grateful that it gave us him.
He's grown on me. Like, I wouldn't look back at like Twilight and be like, yeah, I always liked him as an actor. No, I look at Twilight and
It's
I'm like,
movies outside of Twilight. But so Twilight, this one was on a list of so bad it's good, but I think it might just be more of a guilty pleasure.
Hit me.
But the movie Hot Rod with Andy Samberg, which maybe could be bad at parts,
Okay.
but it's one of those movies that I think is intentionally. It's like Napoleon Dynamite.
Okay.
It's supposed to
Yeah.
kind of be that way.
Let's brush this over. Let's do a broad stroke here. There are genres where movies are more likely to be so bad that they're good, right? So self-aware but like absurd comedies, right? So a lot of Adam McKay's films, like
Yes.
Anchorman, right? Eurovision Song Contest. Like these movies,
Oh, yeah.
once again, I don't go into these movies thinking this is going to be a cinematic masterpiece that I'm going to love for all of time, right? The Other Guys, right? These are and some of these are movies that I love watching and would watch again. But like I realize that there's a lot of people who would watch these movies and just go, this isn't for me, this is bad. Like, this isn't my thing. And that's why so bad it's good is subjective, right? So, like, yeah, Hot Rod, Napoleon Dynamite, right? A lot of these, like, really absurd, very, very, very silly
Nacho
movies.
Libre.
Yeah, Nacho Libre. That movie's bad, but it's good.
Yeah.
Right? And,
yeah.
But they're good in that, and I think in the comedy realm and the action realm, they're good in that they accomplish what the genre demands of them, right? So, like, The Meg is accomplishing everything the genre demands of it. And not only that, they told you there's going to be a Meg, there's a Meg. He kills the Meg. We did it, right? You know,
Woo.
Hot Rod. There's a Hot Rod. Like, he's going to do the jump. He does the jump, right? Anchorman itself, you know, like Eurovision Song Contest. They're there, right? Napoleon Dynamite. That's the main character. He's weird and quirky, and we love him, and he dances. Yeah, so a lot of these movies so bad that they're good. And then some of them end up, like, I think some movies try to be so bad they're good and end up being just so bad, right?
Like Sharknado.
Or in the same realm of incoherent and absurd comedy, the Hot Chick, right? With Rob Schneider, right? It was trying.
The Zohan.
Don't Mess with the Zohan, movie that we're not going to talk about. Master of Disguise.
Oh God!
Just some of them end up just being so bad.
Yes.
And they're trying to be so bad that they're good, and I think that happens more in the comedy realm than the action realm.
Yeah.
But either way, like, your list of what's so bad it's so good is yours, right? And I think some other people might go, these are good, and some other people might go, these are bad.
Yeah. So I'll finish this off because, like I said, some of these were my own opinion.
Yeah.
The ones I'm about to rattle off were the ones I found online. Yep. So these are just some from some forums.
Hit me with it.
Twilight, Hot Rod, Sharknado was on that list. Apparently, a lot of people. Plan 9 from Outer Space, which I agree that movie is insane. Yep. Mac and Me. Deep Blue Sea.
Yep.
Face Off, Nick Cage, John Travolta.
That movie's actually good. No.
See, now,
that movie's actually good.
But I saw it on 3 different lists. I also saw it with Con Air, but I'm not mentioning. I like
that
Con
movie's
Air.
Also actually good. Yeah.
Street Fighter.
Those lists are wrong.
Yeah. The first Street Fighter movie.
Oh, that movie's just bad. But yeah.
The second Mortal Kombat movie, Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Oh, that was so bad it's good. But I love that movie. That has a place in my like childhood heart.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the last one, which I think is really funny because I think this movie is just terrible. Howard the Duck.
Yep. Yeah, it makes sense.
But this leads me into the last movie that I wanted to talk about because I truly believe this movie is insane, mainly because I want to tell the story about before the movie came out.
Yeah.
But do you remember the M. Night Shyamalan, Mark Wahlberg,
M. Night Shampoo? Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that movie?
Yeah. No, that movie's memeable.
So that movie, I have only seen that movie like maybe once, maybe twice, but I've definitely seen it.
Not memorable, just memeable.
It's not a movie that I can sit here and say maybe it's so bad it's good. Yeah. I think it's probably just bad.
Yeah.
I might have to put that on my list of movies to watch. But here's what I want to talk about with it, because I just remember when this movie came out, I was still living in Florida, and I remember at my movie theater they had a giant cardboard cutout of it, and it was the street with like all these cars, and it was empty, and it was called The Happening. And I remember that there was a huge discussion at my church because everybody was convinced that this movie was going to be about the rapture. Everybody I knew at the church was like, in like youth group was like, this is going to be about the rapture. M. Night Shyamalan, Mark Wahlberg's a Christian. This is going to be about what happens with the rapture, but different from the other rapture movie that Christians have called Left Behind, right? Now, I will say this. I'm not a Christian. I'm not a religious person. So this is not me trying to insult religion. This is just what I remember. But I remember when that movie came out and we went and watched it. Yeah. And for those of you that don't know, it's about the plants admitting some kind of toxin that makes people want to kill themselves.
Yes.
Which, why I love telling this story is because here you have my youth pastor, my entire youth group, everybody I know, elders in the church being like, this is going to be about the rapture. So a bunch of these people went and talked about it. And I remember
nobody looked it up.
That movie came out on like the weekend. And then that Sunday at service, the pastor was like, he literally got up and after like some morning announcements or whatever was like, now a lot of you were talking about going to see this movie called The Happening. And I understand that a lot of us thought that this movie was going to be about something, but this movie is satanic because it is preaching suicide.
And
I just remember,
suicide?
Yeah, that's
I
what
don't
he
get
said.
that.
He
Yeah.
said preaching suicide, and I just remember a lot of people that saw it being like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they made a movie about people wanting to kill themselves." And I'm pretty sure a lot of them just missed
Pastor Brother
that they
missed
didn't
the
want
point.
to kill themselves. Yeah, Pastor Brother missed the point,
baby.
But I'll just never forget the lead up to that movie. Even my sister and I remember like one night talking about it and being like, wow, I can't believe they're making a movie about the rapture. Like, this is going to be so cool. Like, I wonder if it's going to be like action
Let's
packed.
be real. The Happening falls into the disaster film category.
Yeah,
Right,
it does.
but it's more
really
of a
does.
psychological disaster, right? A more human-centric disaster than it is anything else. But it's like the same concept. It's like the plants are like, we're done with you here, humans, and then the humans
It's
start
got a
killing
good
themselves.
idea.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there is a good movie.
Yeah, I mean, same thing.
Somewhere.
Same thing with Knowing. Once again, Nicolas Cage, right? That's a movie
Ow,
that's so
keep hitting
bad
this
it's
thing.
good. I love that movie.
Okay.
There's that moment.
I
There's that
actually love
moment
that
where
movie.
he's like there's the classic plane crash moment, right? In that movie.
Oh my God.
Right?
Should I make a video about Knowing?
Numbers with Nicolas Cage. That's another one. Like,
Should I make a video about Knowing?
you should just
with
make
Nicolas Cage?
you should just make a longer form video about how many movies are so bad they're good with Nicolas Cage. Like, you should just do like if someone is in a lot of movies that are so bad they're good, you should just cover a lot of them and then decide
that's
if
such a
you
good
want to
idea.
do a deeper dive into any of them at a later date. Like, you could do it with Will
totally do
Ferrell,
that.
you could do it with Nick Cage. You know, like, and then doing that gives you the
Jason
ability
Statham.
to do like broader strokes of why these movies are so bad they're good and whether or not they
Yeah.
actually accomplish what they set out to accomplish. You know, but here's another thing. Like, I would say that like the Jurassic World movie was so bad it's good, right?
Which one?
The first one. The one where like it's the original like I'm the alpha
Jurassic Park
movie.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one was so bad it's good. It even has an amazing moment. Like, the moment we all took away from that was like, oh, what about that guy with the margaritas? Turns out that was an inserted ad from Jimmy Buffett.
And it was Jimmy
It was
Buffett.
Jimmy
That was
Buffett.
Jimmy Buffett.
But
it was Jimmy
what was
Buffett.
funny was I left that movie.
Rest
I'm
in
like,
peace.
man, that guy grabbing those 2 margaritas, that's the real hero right there. Like,
He was like, I am not going to die on an empty
he's
stomach
like,
or sober.
he's like, oh, but I can't get away from Margaritaville without these 2 margaritas. Screw these pterodactyls.
It's just so
Yeah.
good.
But yeah, no, there's a lot of those. Another one that I thought of that was like a little more acceptable in the movies that are so bad they're good was like The Nutty Professor. I loved that movie, but then like when
Dr. Dolittle.
that's one that like maybe for some people who are like dealing with I would say if you're dealing with body dysmorphia issues, like there's a good moral to it, but you have to
Yeah.
get through a lot of fat humor, like. You know, but like,
Kinda, yeah.
that's a movie that's like, I think movies like that, they kind of have like a cultural placeholder. It's like, and this is where we were as a culture, and we've learned.
That's
Like,
Master of Disguise.
yeah, and this is where
Quite
we were
literally.
as a culture, and we've learned.
I remember loving some of these movies as a kid, and then going back and watching them, I'm just like, because I was gonna make a video about the Master of Disguise.
Yeah.
That's why I watched
Yeah.
it. And then that scene came on, and I
You're
was
like,
like,
oh,
well,
yeah,
I don't know
never
if I can really make a
mind.
video. Like, I was like, I can probably mention this, and I was like, okay, like, let's keep watching. And then some more stuff
mention
happened.
it more as like a warning. You should be like, this is not just a spoiler, and I'm not gonna call it a trigger warning, but it's a warning. In this movie,
I don't think I can make a video about it because as I continue to watch it, that scene's actually pretty early on, and the movie never really gets better. So
No.
it's really
No,
just
it
bad.
doesn't.
But Roadhouse is a movie.
yes, okay,
that is not bad.
moving into Roadhouse.
That segue
So,
was woo,
yeah, that was a good.
smooth.
That yeah,
Um,
Roadhouse the original, good movie. Roadhouse the
Yes.
new
Rip
Roadhouse.
the throat out.
I'm going to say this right now, and it's not a hot take. Better movie, like
Than the original?
Yes, it is more developed. I had more fun watching this than I had watching the original, even when I watched the original
Yes.
as like a budding teenager who was like, oh my God, these fight scenes are crazy and cool.
Rip his throat out.
Right? But like this movie did such a good job taking a nostalgia piece and then making something new and better and like making something that we will eventually call a nostalgia piece. Like
There are
and let me also get this out of the way before we we'll put a spoiler alert, but let me get this out of the way before spoilers.
Yeah, I'd say full spoilers.
This isn't a spoiler alert. Jake Gyllenhaal is very arguably one of the hottest dudes I've ever seen in this movie. Like every and I'm saying this as a guy there was no like sexual attraction to it, whatever. I was just like, damn, that is one hot dude.
Scene.
Like I was like, anybody who would find sexual attraction to that is finding a new level of sexual attraction to this. The dude's
agree.
abs are insane. Like,
yeah,
I can only imagine the training routine that went into making this film for him. Like, he is more ripped than current UFC champions. You know, like part of the let's get into spoilers. Roadhouse spoilers. I'll put some fight like roundhouse kick. I'm kicking some audio cues. I love that there's a visual experience for this podcast that's irrelevant, but I'm doing it anyway. I'm gonna put in some fight choreograph like audio cues and then a spoiler thing here. Kicking and punching. Yeah. Spoilers. All right. We got them Roadhouse spoilers. Got the Roadhouse spoilers. Hope there's not a bar fight here. Whoa! Let's get into it. He's okay.
Yes.
Let me just finish off this statement. He is in better shape than some of the guys I know who could absolutely like kick the shit out of almost anybody in the world, right? Like, and I'm just like the whole movie. I'm like, he's just in like. I feel like if a guy like that walked into the ring, people would be like, "Is this guy a bodybuilder or like is he a natural bodybuilder or is he here for UFC?" Yeah, is he doing the new bod campaign? Is bod back? Are we doing that again? Like, remember bod?
Yes.
That's what I was. This movie made me ask, is bod back? Like,
so there's three things about this movie that I think it does really, really, really well. And since we're in spoilers, I'll just go ahead and say all three of them first. One, the villain isn't some like over the top, like it literally he's just he's the son of a guy. Well, like I mean like over the top in the sense of like he doesn't own like a multi-billion-dollar empire. Like the plot is pretty simple. Yeah. He's like the son of a guy who is basically like a drug dealer for the Keys of Florida. Yep. So like nothing crazy, not like a huge operation. Yep. It's very like it feels very enclosed into the island that we're on. It doesn't feel like like, I'm glad that there's no, like, FBI or CIA. Like, there's no real law enforcement. It's very, like, closed off from the outside world. Oh, you mean it's not a Fast franchise movie? Yeah, it's a very contained story for once. But, like, the villain is very simple. He's a bratty son who has some money. You know, he's trying to build a resort. It's a very Ben Brandt. Ben Brandt. I love that actor, though. Billy Magnuson.
Oh, he's so
good.
Awesome.
Yeah. I love that. That's one thing that I love. The other, I love that even though there is like this sexual tension between
there's a romance story in it,
the romance story is it's not even really there. And I was really worried that they were going to go the route where like he has to make a decision and like there's love. And
there's some attraction and mutual respect there.
I like that it's not all about the love story. I like that at the end of the day, this really is about him doing his job protecting the Roadhouse. And the third thing, there's a lot of things I like about this movie, but the third one in terms of like how it's organized and the plot and everything.
The third and last thing that you like about this movie. Go ahead.
Oh, God. There's so many
There's
more
nothing
things.
else that you like about this movie.
I'm saying the opposite.
I know.
I'm quite
You're only allowed to like 3 things about this movie. What are they?
Oh, my God. No, because there's anyways, I like that the ending feels like a natural way that this movie would end.
Yeah.
I like that after everything is cleaned up, all the bad guys are murdered and everything. Yeah. I really like the moment in this movie, and it's probably like the last 30 to 40 minutes where you find out, like there's throughout this entire movie, Jake Gyllenhaal's character named Dalton, you know, he's a UFC fighter. He either murdered somebody in the ring or
he killed
paralyzed him.
He killed him.
He killed him.
He killed him.
I didn't know if that was like specifically
They keep alluding to it, but he killed him. Yeah. Cool. It was like one of his best friends. They had a match together, and he's got like a haunted past, right?
World title.
Yeah, it was a world title match, and like his friend is unleashing on him. Like you do see there's this moment where like you can see like he's getting hit in the head a lot. This other guy's not holding back, and I think he realizes that his friend's not holding back, and then
So he doesn't hold back.
People can there are some people who can identify with this. There's a switch that goes off in your head when you have and when you have enough adrenaline going through your body and you're in the moment and the threat of your own safety is high enough. And this is something that like you're balancing when you're sparring with people, when you're in the ring. It's really funny and relevant that I do so much sparring now and like, you know, competitive things like in combat. But like there's a moment where, and this is what a lot of people say when like I ask them, I'm like, hey, you should come try Muay Thai sometime. They're like, oh no, I would see red and like fucking lose it. And it's like, all right, well, here's what really happens when most people see red. You swing a couple wild punches because you're untrained and they get blocked and you get knocked on your butt and then you sit down and then you maybe have to walk out of the room for a minute and learn your first big lesson about combat, which is you're not always going to win. And it doesn't matter how much adrenaline you have or how fierce you think you are, you might still lose. But this moment in this movie, you can see the switch flips in his head and they do a really good job of only showing his face. There's no extra theatrics to it. It's just you see on his face, he's like, no more of this. And he starts punching. Starts really unleashing.
Like flying knees him first.
Well, yeah. So he really unleashes on his friend, and then his friend's down, and the ref calls the fight. Now, when the ref calls the fight, that's it. He was knocked down. He's not responding to the punches. Jake Gyllenhaal's character is punching him like a ton, and usually right there, they consider that a knockout. They're like, you're not responding to the punches. We're gonna stop you before there's any crazy damage, right? And there used to be a rule in the UFC, like you used to be able to throw elbows to the back of the head. They actually removed that. They were like, you can't, no more elbows to the back of the head, because people used to, like, literally, like, just get. There's actually a famous Renzo Gracie match. He got on the back of a famous judo player, Striker's, his back, and he threw some elbows to the back of the guy's head, right? And we've since learned, you know, TBIs, things like that. We probably shouldn't be doing that, but. So the ref calls the fight, and then Jake Gyllenhaal goes back in because he's still in that state, that mental state, that emotional state. He's not really in control anymore. So he runs back in, pounds the guy's head a few times, and you see it kind of limply bounce. And that's what's sort of like visually cueing, like, oh, he's dead. And then you see on Jake Gyllenhaal's face, what have I done? Right? And there's no like crazy... no one says, what have you done? Like, you just, I love the way that they did that moment, because as it builds up over time, you kind of see where it's going and people allude to what's happening. But what they do is they show you his initial reaction to having that much of a threat to his safety. And then they show you his reaction to what happens after he comes out of that like blackout wild state.
Yes. Yeah. And what I love about all of that buildup and I will say, I like that it wasn't like multiple flashbacks. There's like 2 dream sequences where basically covers like 90% of it. And then there's that moment towards the end where you kind of see how it all came together, like the full thing. But what I love about that is the entire movie, his character is super nice. You know, like he literally slap fights those guys and then drives them to the hospital. Like he's such a nice guy on the surface. And then you kind of find out that the reason he doesn't get angry is because and he even has a line where the bad guys like do some stuff that like send Conor McGregor after him, and he's like, I'm leaving town, and everyone's like, oh, are you scared? And he's like, I am scared. I'm scared because I will kill every single one of you if you push me that far. And then he sees the burnt bookstore, and I just love that it's like that switch. And he goes to the house, and the guy that has been in the background the entire movie with sunglasses on, just like sitting all cool, being like, well, we should just kill him, like we should just beat him up, and like he just punches him in the throat. Yeah. Which is a good homage and a good way to do the throat pulling of the original without copying it, made it its own. I think that really, when I saw that, I was like, oh, hey, cool. But what I love is that his character gets pushed to the point where he's going to be what he doesn't want to be. And it just, like, it's such a good natural build-up throughout the movie. He trains the other bouncers. He's got good relationships. Like, the fight scenes are really realistic.
Oh, they're so good.
I mean, maybe not towards the end.
No, they're
but even
then, even like, the stuff that's like then, over the top. It's like, yeah.
I'm thinking about the boat crash. I think that probably would have killed him. But
no, the boat crash wouldn't have.
You don't think that would have killed Billy Magnuson's character?
I think
he
should have had like a broken leg and been crawling back. But like,
well, he got his neck snapped by Conor McGregor. So
here's the thing. I was able to suspend disbelief like the entire film because I'm like,
Yeah,
This is
totally.
Roadhouse, right? So,
Now, here's my complaint with this movie.
hit me.
Here's my
What do you think is wrong with the movie, Odie?
My literal only complaint.
There's not
is,
enough of Conor McGregor's butt in it.
Oh my God, I bet that was his idea. I
no,
bet they were like, "Hey,
that's
you're gonna."
a famous moment. That's a reference. Yeah.
I feel like Conor McGregor was like, "Put as much as my ass in this movie as you can."
I think Conor McGregor just came on and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna put more of this in there."
But see, my complaint is actually with something to do with Conor McGregor.
Okay, hit me.
And he's not an actor,
Yeah.
so I get it.
Well, he is
But
now.
Well, you can say that he was in a movie.
Look, man.
I don't know, call him an actor.
Look,
But like his, and I know that that's his natural, like it's how he sounds.
Yeah.
But why does he sound like he's doing an Irish accent? Like, why does it sound like that's not his?
that's his
natural
actual
tone?
accent.
Like, I know, but it sounds fake, and I know that sounds weird to say as somebody that's American.
Your
with an English
least
accent.
favorite thing about the movie
Hang
is
on.
someone's
Hang
real
on.
life accent.
Hang on, hang on, hang on.
You know what I hate?
I'm not
I
done.
hate when people from Ireland don't sound the way I think they're gonna sound.
No.
You know
No,
what?
no,
We talked
because-
about this. You're racist. You're racist
No,
against
hang on.
Irish people, Odie.
Stop. No, because the reason why it sounds so off to me is because I've been to Ireland.
Oh, and
he-
so now you know how Irish people sound, Odie.
Yes, but he doesn't. But he sounds like there are moments where it feels like he's putting on an accent that's not there. Like, and I don't know if it's because maybe I've just never heard this man speak before. Because I've never heard Conor McGregor speak ever in
I
my
can
life.
affirm it is definitely that you've never heard him speak before. That is what's
Probably
happening
because
here.
it was so jarring to see his face and body, and then that voice come out.
That's what he sounds like.
Yeah, well, he should change his voice. I don't like it.
Oh my fuck. All right, Connor. Odie Matthews thinks you need to change your voice. I don't know how you want to handle this scenario, but the word's out.
I there was something about it, but I like I love his character in this movie though.
Yes.
I love that from the moment he's introduced to the moment he dies, he is the definition of psychotic. he's always smiling.
Oh, I love
it.
That's my favorite
it's
part
great.
is he's smiling the whole time. I actually thought you were gonna go a different way with this. I thought you were gonna have the same single complaint that I had, and that's that the scene where he first picks up the golf club, he doesn't use it, and I love that he uses it later. But the scene where he first picks up the golf club menacingly and is smiling at it and has an opportunity to show us, hey, I'll hit anybody with this thing. He doesn't. And I thought that was a weird choice. And it's not a bad thing, and he uses it later, and I'm happy about it. But, like, in that scene, I was like...
See, I kind of like that scene.
When he picks up that scene, I'm like, who's he going to hit? Who's he going to hit with the golf club?
I thought that scene kind of did a good job of showing us he was hired by the dad to help out the son, and in that moment he's
got some
not
restraint.
really like he doesn't hit him, he doesn't push him, he doesn't do anything, but then at the end of the movie he literally just snaps his neck because he's like, fuck this.
Yeah, he's like, I'm done.
Kills
You're
him.
annoying.
I
Yeah.
think that in looking back at the movie from a critical lens, I kind of like the way that scene shows that like this character could have restraint but literally chooses not to every other moment of the film.
We're in full spoilers. Did you see the final moment of the movie?
Well, I mean, which final moment?
The final moment where it's in a hospital and you see blood go up on the window and some lady yells, "Stop that man," and it's Conor McGregor in a hospital gown that has a lot of blood on it walking out of the hospital.
Oh, I missed that.
Oh, yeah. And
I
he's
didn't watch the
smiling
credits.
still. And it's amazing.
Oh,
He's walking out, and
cool.
the literal
I love
last
that.
moment of the film is him. It's the same walk, and you see his
More
butt
Conor McGregor
again
butt?
because it's a
Yeah.
hospital gown. And the only thing that you see in front of him is a vacant ambulance that he can grab and drive somewhere. Like,
I hope they don't do a sequel to this movie because I don't think it would fit.
here,
but I love
here are
that
the
that's
elements
a
that have set up a sequel. Conor McGregor is alive. Jake Gyllenhaal's character is alive. What's Dalton? Dalton is alive. What's Conor McGregor's character name? It's like Phoenix. Knox. I was like, Phoenix? I'm like, what is it? Knox is
tattooed
alive.
on his body a
Dalton's
lot.
alive. And the dad is alive, presumably, in jail.
The dad from Brant. I was thinking about
He's
that.
in
I was
jail.
like, the sequel would have to be. But then the point of the Roadhouse movie, like the original and this one, is that he's protecting the Roadhouse. So if the sequel was this is what I wouldn't want. I wouldn't want the sequel to be, well, now the dad's going after the Roadhouse and they have to track down Dalton and they bring Dalton back and then Conor McGregor's back, because that feels like the same movie again almost.
I feel like the movie might be the dad coming after Dalton. Like, the sequel to this might be the dad coming after Dalton wherever he is next and him not knowing why he's being pushed, right? So there's a little bit of a mystery element to it, but we as the viewer kind of know and remember, right? Or maybe they just announce it, whatever the fuck. But, like, the dad's going after him because he thinks he killed his son, right? Because the dad hired Knox, so the dad wouldn't think that Knox killed his son. So then I think, like, you know, later on in the movie, he's like Knox finally, he's like, well, that's why I fucking killed him, you know. And then the dad's like, oh, it was you, right? You know, like,
they should Fast and Furious it and make it where Knox and Dalton team up.
Oh, that would be sick.
And then throw Jason Statham in there,
I would
too.
approve of this. Okay, here's the I do want to say this. All props to Conor McGregor for this being his acting debut. What a huge thing. Because I honestly, that was the one thing that made me skeptical about this movie.
Same.
And then what made me say I'm watching it this week is Jake Gyllenhaal and Conor went on the Armchair Expert podcast, and they did an interview together with Dax Shepard about Roadhouse. And Dax Shepard endorsed this movie. And that's what made me... Like, well, I don't care how you
feel. He's a homophobic transphobe.
Well, okay.
I don't like him.
Regardless of the homophobia and the transphobe, like, he has good taste in film. And
I just want to say
okay, but he has. So yes, we like him less. He's gone down. His status has gone down. But not on this podcast, baby. But
he will not be our
guest. Yes, he. You hear that, Dax Shepard? You're never coming on this podcast. I know you're doing just fine.
He made fun of non-binary
You just
people.
interviewed Bill Gates, but.
Yeah, fuck you.
Anyway, they went on his podcast, and I loved the interview, and I was like, oh, cool. I'm gonna watch this movie. And then from like the very beginning of the movie, I was like, okay, no, this is good. And the first scene with Post Malone, come on, so good.
I was hoping he'd show up again. I was really hoping he'd show up again. I'm glad
he didn't show up again, and I love that he's supposedly beat up 6 people in the beginning of this film, and then Jake Gyllenhaal shows up and he's like, I'm not fucking fighting him, man.
Like, I'm out.
I'm not doing it. Like,
I'm out.
I love that that's how they introduced the character. They did a lot of showing, not telling, which first off I love, because it's so easy in an action movie to just over explain everything, right? But my favorite moment of this movie, and I think you might appreciate that this was my favorite moment, it's a very short moment, but it's the moment where Dalton and Knox are first fighting. And Knox is coming at him with all of the insanity that we know him to have. And he hits him so hard that the camera goes into first-person mode. Like, the transition from third to first in that, I was like, this is fucking sick.
Some really good creative decisions
Yes,
in that area.
And not only that, it highlights, like, what I really loved about that is it shows what it looks like when someone that psychotic is coming at you. Like, and it's so, and then they do it again, and that actually sets up for the later shot when they do the flashback, and they go into his mindset again, and you see this person who has that same kind of bloodlust in their eyes coming at him, and it visually, it justifies why that switch flips, right?
I agree.
So, like, I was like, oh, that's good storytelling, right?
How did you feel about Schrodinger's alligator?
Oh, I loved that. That was
I thought
crocodile,
that was great.
by the way. Crocodile.
Well,
it's a croc.
Sorry.
I love that they mention it. I love that they're like, stay away from the croc. Stay away from the croc. And, like, you never see him get into the water. And then as soon as that guy went in the water, I was like, oh, that's what they were setting up.
You know it's coming soon. And when he's just sitting there and he's, like, holding on, and he's like, I'm going to come up there and beat you up. I was like, you're about to get eaten.
Oh, man. You don't mean Schrodinger's. You mean Chekhov's crocodile.
Chekhov's,
yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Because I was like, it's in a state of non-and existence.
Yep, it's just always there.
Schrodinger's crocodile. We don't know if he's there or not.
That's terrifying. My favorite part of this movie, I think my favorite part is I think there's so many good moments, but I think
I already told you
my
mine.
favorite.
It's the actually I have a second, but so you've got another moment to think. My other favorite thing about this movie is the same scene, the first fight scene. I love that the band never stops playing. Like, even after the fight is over, they finally, like, like, the fight gets over and there's, like, still another 20 seconds of that, like, that rock and blues song. And then they're like, all right, and the song's done. Good. like, that band, MVPs, for sure. They play all the way through the bar fight. And it's a crazy bar fight. Like, shit's going down. People are getting limbs broken. Stuff's falling from the ceiling. The band never stops. Yeah. It's almost if they knew. They were like, this is the soundtrack for this fight. And then, honestly, though, and then finally the fight's over and they're like, all right, cool song.
We're out of here. See?
That's it.
I think that my favorite moment is the first time we actually get to see Dalton, like, show off why he is so feared. Like,
oh yeah, when he punches the guy in the throat. To your
point. Oh no, the slap fight.
Oh
like,
yeah,
the very first fight that he pulls the bikers out and he's
slapped you.
I like the way that he's like, oh, those are your bikes, and he walks out and they're like, wait, what? And he's like, I just wanted to get you outside, like, I just want to talk, and then he just slaps the guy. And he's like, I just slapped you. Are you okay?
Yeah.
And I also like when one of the guys goes to punch him when he's on the boat, like later on in the movie, and the guy like punches him and he just like bounces off, and he's just like, what are you doing?
No,
but, like, the showing not telling aspect of this movie that you mentioned is like one of the things that I really, really like about this movie. The more I think about is the fact that every time there is a fight in the bar, it's not Dalton. He has these two other bouncers that he's like kind of training and being a mentor for. And only when the situation is escalated to the point where he feels he needs to get involved does his skill set come out. And I think that's a really good way of showing that he's there for like worst case scenario.
They do a good job of not making him a superhero, right?
Yes.
We should also mention one of the other things I really love about this movie. I love the one biker who's like, he's actually a pretty nice guy. Like
Mo.
And and then
his name was Mo.
Yeah, Mo. And then at the end he's like, listen, man, I just like riding motorcycles, and
I'm sorry.
And it's really hard to do if you're not in a gang in this state. So like, I'm just gonna leave. Like, don't kill me. Like,
I'll never come back.
It's like, I'm out. And I love that Dalton, like, even though he's like that switch is flipped, he's like, yeah, you know what, this guy, like, he's not done anything that bad, so he's out.
It's because the scene in the bar fight that you're the one where he fights Conor McGregor finally, where Mo has the stool and he's like holding it up. And he's like,
oh, hey,
hi,
man.
Dalton. And he just keeps walking.
Yeah, he just comes by. He's like, he doesn't hit him. He's like, oh, hey, man. Like, and
then just keeps going.
Just part
and Dalton's
of the
like,
fight.
yeah, okay.
I'm not fighting you.
I also the reason I think this movie is as funny as it is the writer wrote another movie that I think is genuinely really good with Ryan Gosling, the Nice Guys.
Oh, Shane Black.
Which is a good action comedy movie.
Wait,
so
Shane Black wrote this?
No. Shane Black directed
Who wrote The Nice
Guys? He did not write it. His name is like Alex.
Oh, dude, I love The Nice Guys. Yeah, this actually makes perfect sense.
Comedic sense in this does. Anthony Bagarozzi. Yeah,
nice. Dude, I love The Nice Guys too. Honorable mention for that film. Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling breaking each other's arms and like trying to be detectives. Yeah, no, so amazing.
It's really good.
Yeah, and that does make sense why this film would have that same kind of comedic timing and like these moments. The thing that I probably love the most about this film is they know it's a nostalgia piece. They know that it's a nostalgia piece for a hyper masculine piece of cinema, and then they went, instead of just being hyper masculine, we're going to be self-aware. And making the film self-aware was like the best thing. Yeah. And like you said, and here's what makes the film self-aware. 1, the comedy. 2, the timing. 3, showing not telling. 4, having these moments of people who admire and or respect each other, but never getting into like some crazy complicated emotional romantic relationship because it's not necessary for the plot, right? Giving and then 5, giving Dalton's character things that he cares about that ultimately show how that switch gets flipped, right? So like those things make the film self-aware, because it's not like he's just like turning it on all the time. The whole movie is like edging him, it's like nudging him forward and nudging him toward that direction. And then finally the bookstore gets burned down and he's like, well, these people didn't deserve this, and so now I have to go harm people.
And he was already leaving. If they hadn't burned it down,
he even said that. He's like I was leaving. He's like,
oh, we scared you off, and then he just walks up and goes, nope.
He's like,
punch.
actually, I was gonna leave, but
have fun dying.
now I have to kill everyone. Like,
yep.
Yeah, no, it's
and
so good.
I love that. Yeah, it's honestly, you texted me about it that it was, probably one of the better action movies you've seen
in like a decade.
I gotta be honest. The action, so as a movie, great all the way through.
Yeah.
Good plot, good acting, good cast. But action wise, the only other movie that I've seen recently that has good action, and I'm being very specific with my word choice.
It's Dune 2.
Good action. Well, I meant more in this style of like beat 'em up kind of stuff. Is The Beekeeper with Jason Statham that came out early this year. Listen. The action in that movie is good. All right. I don't know if the movie is good, but the action in that movie is really solid. The action in Roadhouse is better, but it's good.
I'll give you that. I can't wait until you inevitably have to review all of these Jason Statham movies for Magnum Opus. All right, let's do a couple quick jams.
One.
Do you have any jams this week? You got anything for me other than Roadhouse?
Yes, I texted you what I've been listening to, and for whatever reason, I cannot stop listening to the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And why this is so weird to me is because my entire life I've never liked their music. I've never gotten into it. There's like, if Danny California came on, yeah, that's a good song.
Yeah.
But like everything else that they've made, like I don't know if it's their most popular album, but the album that I remember the most growing up was Stadium Arcadium, which has like 20 tracks, which Danny California comes from. But for whatever reason, when I've been editing my YouTube videos recently, I've just been putting on Red Hot Chili Peppers, and it's been such a vibe this last week, and I've just been really, really fucking with it. And I know it's nothing new, but I grew up playing bass guitar. Flea was one of my inspirations with Geddy Lee from Rush, even though, again, I wasn't a fan of Red Hot Chili Peppers. Flea, incredible bassist. Geddy Lee, incredible bassist. And so now with more, I don't hope this doesn't sound like I think I'm smart in this area, but now having a more understanding of the writing process for lyrics and music and flows and beats and rhythms, and like really being able to pick up on parts of songs that I didn't pick up before. My ears are more trained now. I have a newfound respect for the Red Hot Chili Peppers across the board, and they are probably a band that I'm not like. I think I'm happy that I've come to them, even if it's 20 years too late. I'm vibing with them hard.
Nice.
So,
cool.
That's been my jam.
My jam this week. This is actually the third week, and I almost forgot it again. Because like it's not like
Action Bronson.
No. I should have mentioned this instead of Action Bronson. I think last week. But I obviously am still listening to Action Bronson a ton because I've really been loving that. But I've been watching Shogun, the new FX show,
the Hulu,
and
Game of Thrones, but ancient Japan.
Not Game of Thrones, but ancient Japan. It is a love letter to a specific time period in ancient Japan, and it is so good. And here's a couple things about the show. No spoilers. Just going to give you a couple things that I love about it. One, when people are speaking Japanese, they're speaking fucking Japanese. And I love it.
Nice.
And there's subtitles, right? And I'm watching with subtitles already anyway, but the people speaking Japanese and actually speaking Japanese, and people speaking Portuguese and actually speaking Portuguese or Spanish, right? Because those are the languages in this. Those moments are amazing. And just brief overview, the story starts with an English sailor. His last name's Blackthorn. A lot of people call him Blackthorn, or Anjin, which is like his name that he gets given by the Japanese. He's on a ship. Ship gets wrecked. Turns out they're in Japan. He gets captured as a prisoner, and then he gets roped into this crazy political drama that's going on in this time period because of like an aging I would say emperor, like there's an aging ruler, right? And so there's a lot of political turmoil that's happening at this time, and the dynamics are really weird. And like, I cannot recommend it enough. There's like, there's these really cool moments where they kind of show you, like, they show you glimpses of history in a historical fictional context without over explaining them. There's a lot of showing, not telling. And like just the credence that the show shows for how people of different culture can have like a different sense of value, behavior, all of these things. Like it's just it's so fucking cool, and like it's not a like it does everything that it can to not be like a white guy saves Japan thing, because he's not really the good
white guy saves China.
Well, he's not really the good guy, and like
no, I know what you mean.
And as you're watching it, you get a sense of like, oh yeah, they could just murder him at any moment, but he's very luckily like getting along based on like his wits, and it kind of gives me Black Sails vibes. I don't know. Did you ever watch Black Sails? Did you ever watch Black Sails?
Show.
Did you watch all of it?
I love pirate stuff.
Black Sails might be my favorite show ever.
Really?
Yeah, like it's up there.
It's good.
It's amazing, and this show gives me a lot of Black Sails vibes, but obviously in a much more like Japanese context. And I love that Blackthorn, just like because of the time period that it's in, he keeps calling it the Japans, and like just all the stuff going on there. And he's showing up at a time where like some people have become Christian and some people aren't still, you know, like it's just really, really cool to see how that all plays out.
I love that.
So big recommendation on the show.
Last little mention.
Yep.
Natalie Carr's new song,
Cowboy. Did we mention that last
Banger.
week, or do we need to talk about it now?
I don't think we did.
Oh yeah, dude. Natalie
Banger.
Carr's she's putting out bangers this year. There's gonna be an actual body of work coming out other than just singles. I'm absolutely so pumped for her.
Totally.
And yeah, dude. Like, I couldn't be happier for the people that we talked to. Izanagi, Natalie Carr. I've got a couple other friends who I might bring on for interviews this year, who are all kind of they're reaching this point of climb in their music journey. That's just amazing. She actually just got featured this week on a production, Ableton. I think it was Ableton, on a production Instagram, because she's been doing these short reels where she explains little production tricks that she uses for her vocals. And one of those was recently, I think, sponsored. And so, you know, going back to the interview that I had with her, she's finding ways to get extra revenue streams as a solo artist that aren't just her writing and releasing music. She's finding other creative ways to like get herself out there, get her name out there. But then also, like, I like that she's sharing her passion and educating people a little bit.
Yeah, she's great.
She is.
Yeah, I hope when I come to visit again, we can get her on and we can all three sit down and chat, because I would love to talk to her.
Dude, that would be great.
Since I've actually never spoken to her, but I am a fan.
I'll hook that up for you, Odie. I'll be your
Thanks.
liaison to famous people. Here's a little bit to take us out with.
Take us home.
Let's take us home.
Capitan.
So I get a text last night, and I've been sparring a lot lately. A couple of the guys that I spar with, they're getting into, like they have good fights coming up. That I'm really pumped. I'm going to be there front row watching them fight. I get a call from the guy who runs the fighting promotions last night, and he knows that I'm going to the fights already. I've already bought 2 tickets, and then and he was like, "Hey man, we've got a female main event." And I was like, "All right, cool, yeah, rock on." And like, let me preface this with, some of the guys that I spar with are like, "Hey Kev, when are you getting in the ring? Like, when are you going to get in the ring and fight?" And I'm like, I don't know yet. I don't like that conversation has started coming up over and over again. 'Cause now that I've been doing it for a little bit, I got some good combos. People know that like my judo and my jujitsu are pretty good. So people are like, "When are you going to get in the ring and fight people? Like, when are we going to see Kev?" And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, really, I don't know. I'm not being humble about it. I'm just like, okay, I'm not certain about it yet. I don't feel confident enough yet to say, yes, I could hop in the ring and fight somebody. I'm not there. But I get this call, and the guy who runs the fight promotions is like, he's like, "Hey, we got this female main event. We need a guy, like a handsome dude, to be the match guy. You know how there's like match girls and like bikinis and stuff? Yeah. Like, what? Well, we're going a little classier. We're in the Saratoga City Center. So like the match girls, like that do the cards and stuff like that, they're the ring girls. They're going to be wearing nicer dresses. We're not doing like bikinis, right? This isn't Vegas. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, "Hey man, I don't know if you like," and I was like, I was like, "And that's why you called me?" And he was like, "Well, actually, yeah." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, cool. I'll be your ring guy." So now I'm not telling any of the people that I spar with, but then the week after the fights, I'm gonna be like, I told you guys I'd get in the ring eventually. Like,
that's great.
I'm just gonna come in and be all handsome in a nice suit, just holding up the match card for the female main event. And that was the first time Kevin stepped in the cage.
Love that.
It's very, I feel like we rounded out this Roadhouse thing.
Yeah.
What was your favorite shot of Conor McGregor's butt in the film? And why do you think his accent is fake?